What's going on? What's going on, everybody? It is the only sports podcast. That's right, the only sports podcast. I'm Will. That's Casino over there. How we doing today, Casino?
Pretty good, pretty good. I'm okay with how the weekend turned out, sports wise. Couple disappointers, but for the most part, pretty good. How about you? How you feeling? You sound better, by the way.
I sound better. I am still sick. Both my kids are now sick. Both of them have like this random rash now. We don't know where that came from. Their throat. My son just turned 4 years old. We took him
Does this mean
to
we're postponing Thursday again?
I don't know. Well, we still got 2 days. We might have to. But we took my son to like a Benihana-esque place, where they do the thing in front of you for like his like birthday dinner. And within 20 minutes of being there, he projectile vomited all over the actual like the restaurant. So
Did he puke onto the flat top?
he did not, but he did puke
Dude, that would have
around the flat
cleared
top.
out the entire place. Just imagine burning vomit on a hibachi grill.
Yeah. So, and then you know what? It's funny because
That makes me
we were
go.
taking pictures of him and stuff like that before he projectile vomited. We had to change his clothes, go to the bathroom. It was a huge thing. Staff was great. They were like, they acted like it happens literally every day. They were like, oh, whatever, we don't care. And then afterwards, he was dancing around. He was eating food. He had no issue whatsoever. And yeah, so we just have pictures and videos of him afterwards in completely different clothes, just having the time of his life.
I really wonder with like the Benihanas and whatnot that's like down on the strip. I wonder how many drunken assholes have gotten so sick they've puked. Like, I want to know how many times people have puked onto a hibachi grill.
That's a good thing to Google. But yeah, we told our son, we know it's your birthday, but stop taking shots. And he was celebrating, we all were. He turned 4. But we are not here to talk about my son turning 4, Casino. We are here to talk about a weekend of sports that you know what? It started on Saturday. And let's just dive right into the games,
You've
Casino.
got it.
The Texans took down the Charger, or no, I'm sorry. They didn't take down the Chargers. Wait a second. Oh, yes, they did. Sorry, I'm on the divisional playoffs. The Texans, I'll cut that all out. The Texans take down the Chargers 32-12 in a game both you and I picked the Chargers. I feel like 80%, maybe 90% of people pick the Chargers in this game. And as will be a running theme in most of these games, one team blows out the other. This time the Chargers blow them out the Texans blow them out by 20.
So I just looked up that throwing up on a hibachi grill, and somebody goes, it's called a vomomlet. A
Oh,
vomelet.
that's nice. Yeah.
That's gross.
And they make it into a volcano. It's
Yeah.
nice.
All right. Anyway, so moving on. Texans take down the Chargers. Oh man. Do you think this is just because my boy, Justin Herbert is a sham, or do you think the Texans just figured it out?
I don't know. I think so Herbert in this game had, and it's so funny, like we'll get to this on the Eagles game, or when we talk about the Eagles game, but it's so funny how Justin Herbert has 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions, looks like absolute dog shit the entire game. And the narrative now we're recording this on Tuesday. So all the sports shows on Monday, when they were talking about it, they were like, listen, if you're selling your Justin Herbert stock, I'll take all of it. He's a great quarterback, all this kind of stuff. On the flip side, Jalen Hurts has 2 touchdowns, over like 120 passer rating, and the discussion is like, I don't know if he can win playoff games. I don't know if he's good or not. So that's an interesting point to make, because my point being for all this, it doesn't matter what Justin Herbert does in the postseason, because during the regular season, he is like such a football nerd's wet dream when you watch him play quarterback, that he could have thrown 10 interceptions and 0 touchdowns in this game, and there would still be people defending him as if he's just like I mean, you get him a wide receiver and a tight end, and that takes away 8 of those interceptions. 2 of the interceptions were like fluke ones. One, it just like the ball went right a little bit too high over one of his guys and just landed perfectly to a defender
Yeah.
standing like 5 yards behind him. The
So with
other
that,
one,
okay, go for it.
no, I'm just saying the 2 of them were his fault. 2 of them were miscues, but besides that, I mean,
And that could have turned the tides, though. That honestly could turn the
yeah,
tides. Because regardless how Justin Herbert played and whatnot, Lad McConkey, dude, what a game! 9 receptions, 197 yards. He was outstanding in that game. But they kind of had to launch the ball quite far, just to try to keep up with the Texans. But I talked about it before this game on last episode. It was going to come down to which running backs were better, which rushing team or which team had the better rushing. So J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards collectively only ran the ball for 16 times and only had 48 yards. So not too great there. And then you move over onto the Texans. Joe Mixon crushed it with 25 carries, 106 yards, and a touchdown. But then also C.J. Stroud ran it for 42 yards. Pierce ran it for 15 yards and whatnot. So everybody averaged for 5 yards or more per rush. So that was, in my opinion, the difference in the game is they were able to control the ball. They were able to hold on to the ball. Yes, Justin Herbert didn't look great, but he had to throw the ball 32 times because that running game just wasn't doing anything. So
yeah.
do you pin that on just the scheme for the Chargers just wasn't working out, or do you think that the Texans defense just played outstanding? Because it's very surprising with Harbaugh there that everybody had him. They were favored. Chargers were favored.
I
That
know. Yeah.
um, so it begs the question: was it just the Texans played better, or was it just a complete breakdown on the Chargers?
Well, I do think the Texans played kind of what they should be playing, which is again a game where they let Joe Mixon carry the ball 25 times, 106 yards. CJ Stroud, he still threw it 33 times, but I felt like when you were watching the games, they were very, I don't want to say safe throws, but they were very conservative throws. I don't feel like he was doing the stuff you saw all season where he's trying to play hero ball every, time he touches the football. That being said, he still had 1 touchdown, 1 interception. I didn't think Stroud was phenomenal in this game. I just thought that Herbert was so bad that it made CJ Stroud look like he did last year. But again, you look at this game, it's a 20-point score at the end of it. You look at the box score and you see Justin Herbert with 4 interceptions, and they, what is it, tried to run the ball with Dobbins and Edwards. Both of them didn't even crack 30 yards. So
Well,
that's
like
the
there
tail of
was
the game
remember I
right
did
there.
talk about it that they were both beat up going into this game.
Yeah.
So that
So
and that was a big, I think that was the deciding factor in this game was just the rushing game and being able to control the ball.
well, and then you look at, I mean, you look at the matchup, obviously we'll talk about on Thursday about the Texans and Chiefs.
Yeah, Texans had the
Both
ball for about 10 a whole almost 10 more minutes than the Chargers. So that's a lot of time.
Yeah, but you look at the Texans and Chiefs matchup. I mean, I know the Chiefs are 15-2 and the Texans are 10-7. In almost every statistical category, they're almost the identical same teams. Like, I mean, Stroud didn't have that great of a season. We obviously have talked about Mahomes not having that great of a season all year. You take out the obvious thing of like the Chiefs are, going for a three-peat and all that kind of stuff. You just look at this season in a bubble. I mean, the Chiefs have the 9th overall defense. Texans have the 6th overall defense. Chiefs are 16th in the league in total offense. Texans are 22nd in the league in total offense. And where the Texans are 21st in passing, Chiefs are 22nd in rushing. And then in passing, Chiefs are 14th, Texans are 15th. So it's like one's a better running team, one's a better passing team, but they're all kind of just in the middle. So you
Right.
look at the games that the Texans, or I'm sorry, you look at the games the Chargers and Chiefs had, just based on that alone, I think you can really make the argument like, hey, the Chargers played the Chiefs pretty tight in both their matchups over this season. And then all of a sudden in the playoffs, the Texans blow them out. I think you can make a real case, like, maybe the Texans aren't done upsetting teams in the AFC West. That's
Uh-huh.
all I'm saying.
That's all
That's all
I'm
I'm saying.
saying.
But let's anything else to say on that game, Casino?
Nope, we can move on.
But man, what a first off, what a dud to start the weekend, and then it was a sign of things to come because the next game we have here is the Ravens defeating the Steelers at home by a score of 14, 28 to 14. Ravens win by 2 touchdowns. This was basically the story of Lamar Jackson playing like regular season Lamar Jackson finally in the playoffs. We saw a little bit of it last year. I believe it was against the Texans where he had that really good game, and then the Chiefs.
Right.
That game was a little rough, but also he led a touchdown drive that if Zay Flowers doesn't fumble in the end zone, that's a tie game going into the fourth quarter. So, or in the fourth quarter, I'm sorry.
Right.
So, thoughts on this one, Casino?
Um, kind of thought of what it was. I told you the Ravens were going to be. This was going to be the blowout of the week, and I mean, it wasn't the blowout of the week, but they looked. This looked like the most dominance, in my opinion. Just watching this game, the
Yes.
Steelers just didn't look like they showed up, and the Ravens just had their way with them. Just had their absolute way with them. Yeah, Russell Wilson. He had an okay game, honestly. 20 for 29. I don't think this really was a lot on him.
No, and then when you watch the game, he was making some good throws too. He was buying time in the pocket. He was rolling out. He actually, again, I think if you were to say before this game, the Steelers or the Ravens blow out the Steelers, you would think that Russell Wilson would have like a Herbert game where
Right.
it would just be a bunch of interceptions but he looked good.
But what it came down to is you alluded to it in our TikTok. This was a Lamar Jackson game. Like he was 16 for 21. He didn't have to throw the ball a whole bunch, but he ran. He had 15 attempts, 81 yards, looked outstanding doing it. But Derrick Henry, King Henry, 186 yards, 2 touchdowns, and the team total 299 yards on rushing. Steelers total 29. That was the game. That was
Yeah.
just they didn't. What's the time of possession here? 20 minutes and 27 seconds to 39 minutes and 33 seconds. Damn near 2/3 of the entire game was in Baltimore's hands, and they just ran it. They just
Well,
crushed it.
yeah, and then you look at the average run per carry. Derrick Henry was averaging over 7 yards. Lamar Jackson was
Yeah,
averaging over 5. So there's again, we've said it all regular season. The Ravens are maybe the most exciting offense in the league because they feel like they're unstoppable, and it's like if you hold Lamar Jackson to under 200 yards passing, they're going to run almost for 300 yards on you. If
right.
you
And
hold him to less than 100, he's going to pass for 300
'cause
on you.
I don't
It's
think the Steelers played bad when they had the ball. It's just they couldn't get anything going on that running game. That no matter what Russell Wilson did in the air, you're not going to move the ball. You don't that time of possession. You couldn't keep it. So
Well,
that,
also watching this game, it really felt like Baltimore played a perfect first half of football. Like they
oh yeah,
go into halftime up 21-0, and it felt like it could have been 35-0, just with how efficiently they were moving the ball, how easily they were moving the ball. And like you said, nothing the Steelers did on offense or defense looked bad. It was just the Ravens were so much better than them that they were just basically out like talented them.
yeah. They just couldn't
And
stop
just
them running. That's it.
yeah, it was I mean, but
Um,
again,
so
go ahead.
go for it. No, I was just going to start talking about now. What do you do if you are the Pittsburgh Steelers organization? Do you move off of Mike Tomlin? I mean, his previous playoffs, so wild card round out from 24, 23, 21. They didn't make it in 22 and 20 and 17. They all their last playoff, 5 last wild card rounds, they got knocked out, which is just insanity. So I don't know, man. Their last 6 games in the playoff, they have lost. So
Yeah.
what do you do here? Because yes, you can have that whole argument, and I'm always on the side of keep him because you don't have a losing season. You always can. You're most likely going to make the playoffs. You have a good team, you have a shot, but you don't really have a shot. like when you're playing Kansas City, Buffalo, the Ravens. Like, so it's just kind of in a weird spot for you. You know what I mean?
Well, also this team, we forget about them, but the Steelers, again, they were what 10-3 before they lost four in a row at the end of the season.
Yeah.
When they were 10-3, I mean, we were doing power rankings all this season, and in that 10 game stretch where they were looking really good, we were repeatedly being like, man, are the Steelers the fourth team in the best team in the league? Or they're the third best team in the league? I think there was even one week where I was like, the Steelers are the best team in the league. So I think coming into this season where there were so many question marks about like, what are the Steelers going to do with Russell Wilson or Justin Fields? Or, they don't really have anybody outside of Pickens. What about their defense? Is it going to be as good? Blah, blah, blah. And if we remember correctly, their defense started off the season rough and then kind of figured it out as the season went on. So I think both the blessing and the curse for Mike Tomlin is he basically carries these teams that shouldn't be into the playoffs, but then when they get into the playoffs, they lose because they shouldn't be there in the first place, and then everybody kind of blames him for not winning in the playoffs, where it's like, yeah, but he's taking teams that in other coaches' hands, this isn't 7-8 win Steelers team that
Right.
shouldn't even be in the playoffs. So for them to consistently be fighting for a playoff spot or in the playoffs every season he's coaching is, again, a testament to how great of a head coach he is. But also, if you're the owners, if you're the fans, yeah, that shit's probably going to wear thin when you're 20 years into a Mike Tomlin coaching, tenure, and he's gotten you to the playoffs every year, but never into the AFC championship or never to another Super
Yeah, the
Bowl.
last time it looked like they were in the AFC Championship was in 2017, where they lost to the Patriots.
Yeah, which, I mean, again, that's 3 seasons away from being a decade. So it really depends on if you're the fans, if you're ownership, how
I mean,
risky
I'm
do you
sure
want to
there's a
be?
lot of other teams that would take Mike Tomlin as their head coach.
I honestly think if he got fired tomorrow, there would be 27 teams like interviewing him for their head coaching
Yeah, we'll
position.
get into that whole coaching carousel coming up. Moving on, but
Yeah.
yeah, moving to the next game.
The next game is when our Sunday game started, and boy, did it start with a dud, much like how Saturday was filled with duds. This dud was the Bills absolutely bullying the Broncos 31-7. This was my upset pick. Obviously, I was dead wrong. But when it started and it was Broncos, and they had that whole history thing where it's like, this is the first time ever in the playoffs a rookie quarterback has thrown a touchdown to a rookie wide
A Wookie.
receiver, a Wookie, and it was 7-0. I was like, oh, baby. I fucking called my shot of the century. And then the rest of the game, the Broncos scored nothing, and the Bills scored 31 unanswered points. So,
Yeah.
thoughts on this one, Casino?
Thoughts on this one is we'll start over with Josh Allen real quick. He looked like an MVP candidate or like an MVP player, man. 20 for 26, 272 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did run the ball for 46 yards, but man, James Cook, 120 yards. Anytime a running back in the playoffs get over 100 yards, you're happy. You're happy because that means you're moving the ball and you can open up the playbook. But what I like seeing is the receiving. He had 2, 4, 6, 8. He had 8 receivers targeted and catching a pass. So he did outstanding there, and it was spread around. It was like 3, 3, 2, 2. The one that had the most was Shakir, and he didn't even have the most yards, but he was just targeted and caught the most. So it looked really good for that. And I do want to say now, going over to the Broncos and talking about the great play from the Bills, Bo Nix didn't really have a horrible game. Honestly, he
No,
was the
it
best
just
part of
felt
that
like
game.
it felt like he was outmatched.
He
That's
was
really what it was.
outmatched. It was.
Yeah.
He 13 for 22. He still had 144 yards and a touchdown. He protected the football. He did run. He was their leading rusher. That was a big portion of it. Again, rushing, rushing, rushing. I know this is a passing league, but being able to run the football opens up your playbook and your time of possession. It keeps it in your hands. It tires out the defense. It's very important to have a good running game. I don't.
Yeah.
I get it's fun and flashy to have the big plays, downfield through the air, but running the football efficiently, it can win you football games. So yeah, Bo Nix, he had 4 carries for 43 yards. So great on him for being elusive and being able to move and getting down. But again, he did everything a rookie quarterback should do. The Broncos barely got into the playoffs. It came down to the last game. He protected the football. He had a touchdown. He was your leading rusher. I will take that all day from a rookie quarterback. First season, all day, making the playoffs. Good for him. Good for him.
Yeah, I don't think it's any coincidence that you look at the top leading rushers in the NFL and this list right here, what do all these teams have in common? The number one rushing attack in the league was Ravens, Eagles, Commanders, Buccaneers, Packers, Lions. Those are the top 6. So let's see. Playoffs. And then it gets to Cardinals, Colts, Bills, Falcons, Steelers. So again, half of those teams either made the playoffs or much like the Falcons, Colts, I think even Cardinals, they were all within playoff contention with like 2 weeks to go in the season.
Yeah.
So all the top, and then after that, it's Steelers are the 11th team. So in the top 11, almost every single one of those teams is either a playoff contender or is currently still in the playoffs right now. So this referendum on the running back and just yeah,
That was your word of the day.
thank you so much. But just this blanket statement over the league where running doesn't matter. It's like, then how come every team that blew out the other team has a rusher that rushed for over 100 yards in the game against the team that didn't have a rushing attack at all? You look at Chargers Texans as we just did. One team couldn't get a running back over 30. The team that won running back went 120 yards. You look at this Broncos Bills game. Broncos were leading going into halftime, right? Or no, the Bills scored right before halftime. So pretty much the first half of the game, the Broncos were up, didn't try running the ball at all outside of their quarterback scrambling. And then the Bills come back in the second half, basically go 21 points unanswered after halftime and have their running back score or run for over 120 yards. I just think that again, teams are so focused on the quarterback and weapons and having 3 good wide receivers that come playoff time, you have a good defense and a running back who can carry the ball for over 20 times a game.
Time of possession, keep their defense on the field.
Yeah, and then play smash mouth football, play bend don't break on defense. You're going to be a lot more successful than, I don't know, a Justin Herbert led team or a fill in the blank with whatever quarterback you like.
Well, I mean, that was in a way, the Patriots uh, recipe for success, but they weren't really always handing it off to the running backs. They were dump plays. They were out,
Yeah.
quick dump plays out and about, and then opening up space and letting the receivers or the running backs create plays.
Well,
And then they
also
had a good defense as well.
their
So
first half of their dynasty, Tom Brady was not a good quarterback. He just knew how to protect the football.
yeah,
And they just ran the ball, played defense, and they won
there
3
you go,
Super Bowls. Yeah.
100%.
And but yeah, when it comes to the Bills or Broncos, my question to you, Casino, is we just talked about the Ravens, we talked about the Bills. They play next week in the marquee matchup for next week. Do you think it's going to be similar to the first game, or do you think that this is going to be a much closer game where it's going to be back and forth between this
I
Ravens?
think it's going to be back and forth, and I just hope these teams do not get injured. I want one of these teams to come out with the victory, to be able to go punch, most likely, the Chiefs in the face.
Yeah, I think what we saw from both these teams, again, Broncos, Steelers, eerily similar teams. Bills, Ravens, I wouldn't say they're similar at all outside of their 2 quarterbacks, but I just think coming out of that game, coming out of both these games, I just think the Ravens look like the best team in the playoffs right
Oh,
now.
yeah. No, like, that's gonna be a tough one for me to pick because I've been high on the Bills for so long, but the Ravens look good.
Especially they finally figured out their defense and now have a top
Mhm.
10 defense. And yeah,
And the Bills seem a little shaky.
yeah, just a smidge. Next up, Casino, we talk about Everybody get your drinks ready, get your popcorn ready. I've had this rant building in me for 3 days now. The Philadelphia Eagles, my Philadelphia Eagles. Let me see. I'm squinting my eyes at the screen right now. Oh, they won? Wait a second. Oh, they won big? Oh, they won by almost 2 touchdowns? Much like the Ravens played the Steelers. Oh, that's weird. 22-10, the Eagles win. But wait a second. They won in a blowout, much like these other teams, Casino. Then why is the coverage of this team being talked about as if they lost? I mean, Jordan Love must have had a great game, right? Oh, 20 for 33, 212 yards,
I'm gonna
three
get some water.
interceptions.
I'll be right back.
It's so interesting how you have people who cover this sports for a living. And for some reason, the quarterback for the Packers has a good half. I don't know, has a good game and a half in the playoffs last year. And yet, a guy who outplayed what some are calling the best quarterback in NFL history in Patrick Mahomes, or you can put him second or third. He's top 5 all time. He gets outplayed by an Eagles quarterback in the Super Bowl. If the Eagles defense could literally be within 5 yards of a defender, they win that game. That game being the Super Bowl. And yet everyone always has question marks about Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts can literally do nothing without just it being questioned. His game, 13 for 21, 131 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 carries, 36 yards, being more criticized in a victory than Justin Herbert, who threw 4 interceptions, by Jordan Love, who threw 3 interceptions. At least with Justin Herbert, he threw a touchdown. Jordan Love is throwing up moon balls to God knows who in triple coverage, and it's getting picked off. And the
He's
announcer,
throwing them. He's throwing them to God. He's throwing them
yeah,
up into. He's throwing moon balls up to God.
and the announcers and everything after that is just like, oh, well, they were in. I mean, they got a lot of injuries on that team. Oh, funny how that works, because when it was Eagles Commanders and every Eagles player, including their quarterback, was dropping left and right, then it's like, well, don't use injuries as an excuse. Don't use injuries as an excuse. When it's, the 49ers get Brock Purdy knocked out of the game, it's like, well, I mean, what are they supposed to do? He got knocked out of the game. But when it's Commanders Eagles, and then it's like, why does it matter? The quarterback got knocked out of the game. He's not their whole team.
You got the
So
best defense in the league.
yeah. So the Packers, last time I checked, had a top 5 defense. So let's see. Jalen Hurts, again, 13 for 21, 131 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, over 100 quarterback passer rating. So do you rather, you football nerds out there, would you rather have Herbert and his great arm and, oh my God, he's so fun to watch? Would you rather have him in the playoffs throwing 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions, or Jalen Hurts outplaying Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl in the postseason? Which one would you rather have? Because last I checked, when it's on TV and it's dorks like Chase Daniels or Dan Orlovsky or Ryan Fitzpatrick, aka quarterbacks who in this league have never done a fraction of what Jalen Hurts has already done in their entire careers, are saying, I mean, I have question marks about this guy. What are they doing? And then guys on TV named, oh, I don't know, Tom Brady and Peyton Manning are praising the game Jalen Hurts plays. I don't know who you're going to listen to. The career backup dorks on the left-hand side, or on the right-hand side, the 2 best quarterbacks to ever play the game. Who should we listen to? Who should we listen to, Casino? I don't know. But then in this game, again, defense plays lights out. Saquon Barkley goes for 119 yards. He breaks off a potential 70-yard touchdown at the end, where he slides down immediately, and then he goes to the sideline, and the team's like, why'd you slide down? You could have just got a touchdown and all that stuff. And Saquon Barkley just goes, why do I care? Like, I don't care about that. I just want to get the victory.
Yeah,
And
and
then
that's huge. Just like going off that, cut you off. That's huge moment though. I want to talk about that. A huge moment for him to do that, because then that just solidifies that yes, he wanted to get the record, but in reality, he wants to do what's best for the team. He wants to win. You've talked about it. He hasn't won. He wants to win. He has never won. Like you said, the collegiate, and then the pros, he wants to win. He finally wants to be on a winning team. So he's going to do what it takes. Continue your rant.
No, that was the end of my rant. But then also, like, I think the really like that was one of the three things in this game where I was just like, oh, I think legitimately where everybody is coming into this game and just looking at again, it's funny that the narrative before this game that you and I both talked about, everybody talked about was Hurts hasn't played for almost a month. He's had a concussion. He's been out. He's going to look rusty. So then he comes into this game, looks rusty, still plays a pretty good, pretty great game if you look at, quarterback rating and touchdown interceptions, no turnovers. And then after the game, it's like all the talking points are what's wrong with the Eagles offense? And then it's like everybody knew that when you sit out for a month, there's discussions being had. Should you sit your team out for a week if it gives you a
Yeah.
disadvantage into the playoffs? This guy hasn't played football in a month because he got knocked out by an illegal hit. So then again, that's just stupid people trying to make content, right? Like that's all that is. But then in this game, Saquon Barkley gets thrown to the ground on a late whistle and there's a flag and all this stuff. Jalen Hurts immediately runs up to the lineman who did it, gets in his face, and there's a picture of 6'1, 6'2 Jalen Hurts getting in the face of a defensive lineman who's like 6'9, 400 pounds, and just like talking shit to him because he just threw his running back down. It's like that. It's the Dallas Goedert touchdown where he's on the sidelines making fun of the guy because he stiff armed him in the face
Three
three
times.
times. And the
That
third time,
was
he's
great.
telling people on the sidelines he didn't need to stiff arm him, but he slowed down so he could stiff arm him in the face again. Like, again, you take all the logos off this Eagles team and you don't say they're Eagles, you don't say their names. You watch them play. This is an insanely likable team that is just getting insanely disrespected for no reason just because they're the
It's because
Eagles.
of the
Right?
fans.
Yeah.
It's because of the fans. It's because Philly fans suck. I mean,
Yeah.
I tell you how much I hate you all the time. I can't stand you,
But
but
also, we're annoying because of the way our team is talked about compared to other teams.
oh yeah,
This, you look at every other team on this list, and it's like Texans blow out the Chargers. Haven't heard one negative thing about the Texans. Ravens blow out the Steelers. Haven't heard one negative thing about the Steelers. Same with the Bills. Same with the Rams. The Eagles also blow out their opponent that before the game, everybody was picking the Packers upset the Eagles. I have not heard
I didn't.
one.
I didn't. I just said that I heard
That's
the
true.
talk. I heard the talk.
But I've like gone through the sports shows talking about this game. I've not heard one positive thing about this Eagles team. And
Hey,
it's just
hey,
like,
hey, hey, hey,
did
hey,
they win the game?
hey.
I think they did.
Eagles look great. Okay,
I think again,
there's your
they're the
positive thing.
top
There's your positive thing.
defense
Eagles look
in the
great. Eagles look
playoffs.
great. Eagles look great.
It's fucking drives me
Eagles look great.
crazy.
Eagles look great.
Oh, I've had that rant to me for 3 days.
I know.
But now we can talk about the game itself, Casino.
I have nothing to say. Nothing more to add.
Well, actually, let's move on to the Packers. As I just talked about, in a less than flattering light. Jordan Love, after last year, when this Packers team upset the Cowboys and then were within a field goal of tying potentially to go to overtime against the 49ers. After that, Jordan Love got a record contract, the most money a quarterback in the NFL has ever been paid.
Way too
So
much. We talked about it.
I mean, we talked about it on this show when it happened that was insane. Now, in retrospect, and after the season he's had and this playoff performance, thoughts on just him as a quarterback and that contract as a whole?
Contract is still dumb. It's still way too much money for too many years.
If he won this game with 3 touchdowns, 0 interception, that's still a dumb contract.
I totally agree. But I mean, is he their quarterback? Can he continue to be successful for this team? Yes, but you know what? He might be like the Mike Tomlin of quarterbacks. You know, he might be able to just be good enough to always be in the playoffs, be right there around the bubble if they're not in the playoffs. But he's not going to win you a Super Bowl. I can't see him winning you a Super Bowl. I just can't. The rest of that team, I really like. Josh Jacobs is really good. I like that defense a lot. And even with that, like talking about that, that defense still held the Eagles to 22 points. Like
Yeah.
that's a young defense doing good things again, not great things, but good things against a great offense. So they have potential everywhere, but I just don't think Jordan Love is your guy. He's too injury prone. He's made of glass, so that's very risky. And yeah, I'm not for it. I'm not for Jordan Love. Is he a good quarterback? Sure. Is he a quarterback that can win you a Super Bowl? No, I don't think so.
No, and especially, I mean, you look at this team, Eagles have number 1 total defense in the league. Packers have number 5. So they're the 5th best defense in the league. And their offense, again, taking out the fan aspect of me being an Eagles fan, that was a rough game going in if you're a Packers fan because you lose Jordan Reed before the game in last week's game.
Yeah, they
And
were
then
down a lot of players.
well, they were already thin at wide receiver, and then it felt like throughout this game, both teams kind of were just suffering like weird fluke injuries. The Packers, I mean, they lose an offensive line halfway or an offensive lineman halfway through the game. His replacement comes in. The first 3 plays after that are all holding calls on that lineman.
Yeah.
So the Packers defense was great. I think their defense played great all season. I've really liked the Packers defense. I think for next year, if they keep this core of young guys together, they can again be a top 5
Yeah.
defense. But
And
the
and then
offense, again, they just didn't have depth.
yeah, they were down their top they were down one of their top 3 receivers there, and then they got their next 2 receivers were also injured. So their top 3 receivers are done for the game. And then you have Josh Jacobs who also got banged up late in the game. Like that was tough. And to start off, like credit to them to continue to still fight after the way the game started where uh the Eagles player popped it on out and right off the kickoff. So, you know what? Give him credit though. I do. I'm not going to give Jordan Love a lot of credit, but the team as a whole, that fight
Yeah.
was there for that team, and especially on the defensive side. Um, they kept that team in the game, and who knows? Like this could have been an upset if they still had their 3 top wide receivers and Jacobs wasn't hurt late in the game. I mean, he still played well. He almost had 100 yards. But Jordan Love throwing 3 interceptions against that Eagles defense. That's a great defense. They're going to make you pay if you do anything stupid, and they did. So great game by the Eagles, and just wasn't there for the Packers this year.
Yeah, and then you look at the penalties in this game. I mean, there was 15 combined penalties. Green Bay had 8, Philadelphia had 7. A really poor officiated game. Some of the calls in this game were absolutely abysmal. I've seen after this game where it was like, oh, the opening kickoff should have been called helmet to helmet and all that kind of stuff. The Eagles guy was already doing his tackle where the Packers guy went put his head down to like protect the ball, and that's what caused helmet to helmet. It wasn't the Eagles guy launching at the Packers guy.
Yeah, where he's
So
already not where he doesn't see where the guy
yeah,
is. He already has his head down.
because the whole thing with the head to helmet is it's like a defenseless guy in a position where he can't protect himself. That was not what this was. So, whew,
All right, moving on to probably the only
yeah,
good game, the game that I enjoyed watching, and it was great. Sunday night, you had Washington Commanders versus the Tampa Bay Bucks. I was only cheering for the Bucks because I like Baker Mayfield. That's my only reason I was cheering for the Bucks. One of my coworkers, she is a diehard Commanders fan. She got off work and she was watching the game there. And she's like, "Why aren't you cheering for my team? Why aren't you cheering for my team?" I'm like, "Because I just want Baker. I have nothing against your team. I picked them to make the playoffs. I picked Jaden Daniels to have a great year, and he did, and they did, and whatnot." But then, literally 5 minutes to go at the end of the game, she was like, "But I can win $1,000 on this," and I'm like, "Why didn't you tell me that? I would have cheered for your team the whole game." Like, my allegiance to Baker isn't going to be more than a friend making $1,000 bucks. Shit. Um,
She would have got $1,000 if the
No, so
Commanders.
Washington won. Yeah, the Washington
Oh,
won.
so
So
she
she won.
did.
She won, and her
Dang.
team won. Her credit card is the Washington logo. Like, she's a diehard fan, so good for her. And I was like, "Why didn't you tell me this? Like, why didn't you tell me this early on?" But anyway, so with that, talking about the game, or let's move over to the losing team first. Baker Mayfield, 15 for 18, 2 touchdowns, 185 yards. Pretty good. Not bad. And he
Yeah.
ran for 23 yards. I mean, I have really nothing bad to say about it. He did good, just wasn't good enough, man. Mike Evans had 92 yards. Bucky Irving has 77. So I feel like the Bucks played as good as they could have. I will just
Yes.
say that they played their best game that they could play. But the Commanders showed up for the playoffs. That Commanders team that's kind of like woo woo woo. They had their little rough patch there mid to late season, but man, did Jaden Daniels show up and show why he should win Rookie of the Year. Good for him. He was
Yeah.
24 for 35, 2 touchdowns, 268 yards. He did rush for 36 yards. He was the leading rusher for the team. I mean, this team just looked good. Well done.
Also, with Jaden Daniels, I've heard a lot of talk of, is he the best rookie quarterback? Like, is he having the best rookie quarterback season of any rookie quarterback in NFL? So I went and looked. He's not even having the best rookie quarterback season a Commander's rookie quarterback has ever had. You look at Robert Griffin Jr. the third season, he had
Some would call them RG3. Let's
yeah,
just say RG3.
RG3's rookie season is better than Jaden Daniels' rookie season, and that's just for the Commanders. Like, so to say he's having the best rookie quarterback season of all time, he's not even having the best rookie quarterback season of his
So you want to hear
franchise.
something? So they did win off a walk-off doink in field goal,
Yes.
which was the first time to happen in the playoffs since 2006, which was wild. My entire
That's no, that's not true.
it says
The
Commanders doink in walk-off field goal for first playoff win. Oh, for their first playoff win. Anyway,
Yeah, because
so
the
my
Bears,
bad.
remember, had that
Yeah,
famous, I mean, they lost, but they
but
had that famous triple doink
yeah, I
a
have
couple
I
years
have
ago.
this up to I read the wrong thing. My bad. I read it wrong. Because I did want to say Jaden Daniels, this is where it goes. Jaden Daniels led the Commanders to their first playoff win in nearly 7,000 days
Jesus.
because they haven't won a game since 2006. That's where I was leading with that.
And
But yes, you're right.
what a
The
way
doink.
to win, what a way to win your first playoff game in that amount of time too.
Yeah. Thanks for
Because
correcting me on that.
no, you're welcome. But also, the Buccaneers, I disagree with what you were saying earlier, where they played the best they could play, because we've seen Baker put up 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions
Yeah.
in basically every game that mattered. And he only threw for 185 yards, 2 touchdowns.
I don't know. Pretty good defense. They stepped up. I mean, Baker did lose that fumble, which was pretty damn costly.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll tell you what, Commanders defense, they finished much like the Ravens, kind of corrected themselves
yeah,
as
they played
farther the
better.
season went on. They finished the season as the 13th best defense in the league. Buccaneers ended up as the what 18th defense in the league, and then yeah, that kind of came back to bite them in the end because the Bucks couldn't get the stop they needed. And yeah, they do. You think with 4 minutes left in the game, where it's 3rd and 1, the game is set, or is 17-20, or no, I'm sorry, it is, yeah, it's 17-20 with the Commanders leading by 3. It's 3rd and 1, the Commanders or the Buccaneers don't get it. Do you think they should have gone for it on 4th and 1 instead of being conservative and kicking the field goal to tie it with a little less than 4 minutes left?
With how the Washington moved the football, yes, they should have. They should have learned from their previous mistakes on not going for it against the Chiefs.
Yep.
So I do think they should have gone for it. But what was the dagger was the fumble that led to Washington getting another touchdown.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I also think they should have gone for it. Again, it's the wild cards. Your defense really hasn't been, the story of your defense all season hasn't been stopping people, especially in crucial spots. The story of your season has been crazy offense and really good offense. And as we've said a billion times on this podcast, letting Baker bake. So you're 4th and 1, you're at home, you're in the first round of the playoffs, you're playing against a team, again, even though you're at home, a team that has a better record than you, that has has all the momentum. Why are you not going for it? Again, you still have 4 minutes left. It's much easier to think that you're going to have a chance to stop the Commanders team if they have to go 90 yards or if they have to chew out the clock, 10 yards from their end zone, than you kicking a field goal, them potentially getting it back at midfield, and then thinking you can stop them for 20 yards so they just don't kick a game winner. Like, I
Yeah.
think, again, I don't know the analytics of that moment, but it seems that when you're 4th and 1 with a chance to run out the clock and win the game with the touchdown, and again, you don't get it, you do get it, you don't score, then you can kick a field goal, but you've also burned probably half the amount of time off the clock. I
Right.
just feel like
And we should
it's
all listen to you. You are a great Madden player. Uh, I saw
I
you
sent
sent me.
Casino. Yeah, in ranked, I won 5 games in a row for this podcast. So, but you know what? Didn't have to worry about field goals in any of them because they were all blowouts, Daddy. All
No, they
blowouts.
weren't.
The first game I played yesterday wasn't, but every other one was a blowout. Read
14
those
0,
scores.
13 0, 7 0, 21 0. So 7-0, not a blowout.
But
And then
7-0.
35-31.
Well, that's the one I'm talking about that was yesterday. The 7-0 was the guy quit immediately after I scored the first touchdown. So, yeah.
His internet cut out. So, all right.
Yeah. But anything else to add on this game before we move on?
No, let's just get to this next game. I feel so bad about not sticking with my gut. All right. So
And
Vikings go in to Arizona because the game was moved to play the home game against to play the Rams home game. I was going to choose early on before the fires, the Rams to beat the Vikings. I talked about it. That was my pick. But I was like, okay, now it's a last minute travel for the Rams. They weren't expecting that. They're going to be down in the dumps because they have friends, family, or whatever it may be dealing with these fires. Some of them might themselves even have lost their homes because it was in some of the nicer area of LA. So, I haven't heard any stories about that. And the Vikings, I figured, okay, they could figure it out. They're a good team. They're 14-2 for a reason, or 15-2 for a reason, or 14-3, whatever they ended, 14 and
who,
3.
the Vikings?
Yeah,
Yes. They finished
14-3.
14-3.
And so that's where I swayed back to the Vikings, and I should have stayed with my gut to pick the Rams, and the Rams absolutely destroyed the Vikings, destroyed them. The Vikings didn't even look good playing this game. So it ends
They didn't
27-9.
They didn't look so good. 5 minutes into the game, I send you this message that you can confirm I sent you 5 minutes into the game. Vibes, feelings, emotions. 6 minutes into this game, the Rams are going to win this game against the Vikings by minimum 10 points.
Yeah, that's
And
fair.
then within an hour, I sent you where I replied to myself and said, remember when I sent this? Because an hour into this game, it was a blowout. 5 minutes into this game, you could tell the Rams are here to play and the Vikings are just happy to be here. Like, that's literally the vibe of what it felt like.
Yeah, it did. It did.
And I mean, the Vikings started out the game almost immediately 2 3 and outs that felt like they were on the field for a minute, like
Yeah,
in both drives, like 30 seconds each.
and
And then,
and what's crazy is the Vikings turned the ball over twice, right? And the LA turned it over in 0, but the Rams still had 95 yards in penalties to the Vikings 20 yards in penalties. So it was crazy. And this is the biggest stat for me was they put the pressure, they watched what the Lions did. You called it. Hats off to you. Is the Rams got 9 sacks. 9 sacks,
yeah.
which
And
is outstanding for 82 yards.
well, and also based on like next gen stats or whoever tracks this kind of thing, 5 of those 9 sacks were on Darnold. So, if you have a
He looked like a
sack
real
where
Caleb Williams out there.
yeah. But if you have one of those games where it's like, oh, the D line just immediately blows past the center and sacks the quarterback, that's on the offensive line. If the
He had so
quarterback,
much time to throw these balls.
if he holds onto the ball too long and either doesn't get rid of it or doesn't try to run or throw it away or whatever it is, then that sacks on the quarterback. 5 of the 9 sacks were on Darnold because he would just not get rid of the ball. He
And
was
so
holding onto it so long when he's being tackled by 3 Rams.
right,
It
so
was
I
insane.
don't know if I just didn't notice it all season, but how far Sam Darnold drops back.
Yeah. I think again, when we watch that Lions Vikings game, when people, when teams, when players show you who they are instead of telling you who they are, believe them. And what Darnold showed us in that Lions game was not only does he hold the ball for too long, but if his first read is covered, if his second read is covered, if he feels uncomfortable, he just cannot do anything. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the Lions have a
So
bad
would you let me
defense.
ask you this, would you keep him going into next year?
I think you have to.
I do
I
too.
really
I
think
still
you
think I
have
mean, you
to.
went 14-3. You can figure that out. You get some pieces on that line to help him out. That's his issue. Just don't let him give him more time. Let him figure it out. Um,
Or just run simpler concepts where he's just throwing two-step drop slants to both Jefferson and Addison
it
and hoping
works.
they
It works. One of
that's
the greatest of all time. That's what he lived on. It was his bread and butter.
yeah.
Anyway,
But again, I also think you kind of have to look at the coaching staff, especially, the
I that was
offensive
gonna be
play
my next
calling.
point, is I just think Sean McVay just outclassed, like, the whole coaching staff just outclassed the Vikings,
Yeah.
just outclassed them.
Because I think if you're O'Connell and the offensive coordinator for the Vikings, and you see your quarterback not only holding onto the ball too long, but getting absolutely annihilated over and over again by a nonstop. Again, when you load the box and you're sending 6 guys, you're sending 7 guys, you're sending 8 guys, you spread the defense out, you do screens, you do quick slants, you just do something to where you have mismatches on the outside now because all your D line and linebackers are blitzing your quarterback. And again, I learned this from Madden, but it doesn't take a genius to say, hey, when we have 6 people blocking and they're sending 8 people to try to tackle our quarterback, there's a number disadvantage here. So why are you not using that number disadvantage on swing routes, on dump off passes, on
You
screen
just saw Jefferson and
passes?
Addison just running all the way downfield every time.
Yeah. And it was just, again, much like my where you're looking at the Eagles Packers game where it's like, yeah, Hertz is holding onto the ball too long because the routes either aren't being developed, are dumb routes, or they're taking too long to get to where they're supposed to be going. You watch this Rams Vikings team or Rams Vikings game, much like you just said, why are Jefferson and Addison doing streaks all game? Your quarterback has 3 seconds to throw. Like, do a curl route, do a quick slant, like do a screen pass. I don't know why your entire game plan is let's let our quarterback stand in the pocket and wait for these 5-second routes to develop. It's just again, and we were screaming that after the Lions game. Like, they're sending all out blitzes. You should have guys on the outside open. Now, to the Lions' credit, they were doing one on one man coverage, and Jefferson and Addison weren't getting, open. That was not the case in this game. The case in this game was the offensive game plan was just obnoxious. It was, and
Yeah.
after the first half where you're down what by halftime they were down 24-3, no adjustments were made in the second in the second half of this game, which is astounding. I don't know what film they saw on the Rams or what film they knew the Rams saw from the Lions game that would make them think, oh, we don't have to change our game plan at all.
Yeah.
Like,
So 2 things that I learned from this game. One was, because I'm kinda done talking about, one was that I'm never going to pick against the team that is dealing with a tragedy in their area because every single time that happens, teams just come out with a fight,
That's
and
true.
I'm
Yeah.
done. Yeah. So
Also,
next time there's a tragedy, a disaster, or whatever it may be, I'm picking that team to win every single time.
much through that same vein, Casino, if we've seen throughout this season, when we do our preseason picks for next season, when we do our postseason picks for the rest of these playoffs, I'm going with who's the better quarterback, because you look at all these games like
Speaking
Herbert.
of picks, I won by the way.
Oh yeah, that's coming up next. But yeah, Herbert
I
Stroud.
just wanted you to know.
Herbert Stroud, that was the one that was causing everyone to pick the Chargers because everybody loves Herbert so much. Outside of
Uh,
that, Lamar
I thought it was going to be a
Jackson,
coaching thing myself.
yeah, but you just look at quarterbacks. Would you rather right now have Lamar Jackson or Russell Wilson? Jackson.
Lamar Jackson,
Would you rather have Bo Nix or would you rather have Josh Allen?
Josh Allen,
In the playoffs specifically, would you rather have Hurts or Jordan Love?
hurts and only hurts in every matter.
Thank you so much. And then for the Commanders, I mean, that was the wild card one because it's like Jaden Daniels has been really good, but he's a rookie, so we haven't seen how he has played in a playoff game, or Baker Mayfield having the best game of his or having the best season of his career. I still feel like I would pick Baker,
I would.
but if somebody picks Jaden Daniels, I can't argue against it.
Well,
Like,
that's why I was fine with the Washington moving on because it was my, my hot take that they're going to be a good team.
yeah.
Um,
And then
okay,
last one, it would be this game we're talking about, Darnold or Stafford. I mean,
Stafford
just
all day,
based on playoffs alone, it's Stafford.
and
We've never
yeah,
seen Sam Darnold outside of this season look good. Like it's
and I
oh,
should have gone, and I should have stuck with that because that was my. It was Stafford and McVay is the reasons why I was going to pick them, and I
I
should have
know.
stayed with that, but I didn't, and
We
I will
had
own
that
that.
we
And
had
then,
that discussion, but
and
I
then
picked the Vikings all season. I had to ride them.
And my daughter, so second thing was my daughter, she originally picked the Vikings as well. She's like, "I want the purple team," when I turned it on, and then I was like, "Well, Michaela, the blue team has Puka Nakua," and she goes, Puka Nakua, blue team," and I'm like, there it is." So,
Yeah,
I
you should have
yeah,
listened to your
I
daughter.
should have listened to my daughter. She knew it.
And
She knew it.
and then
Look, that was
our
my favorite. That was my favorite thing. It was really fucking funny.
and then when it comes to our playoff picks, Casino, as you just mentioned, we both did awful, awful.
No, no, no.
And Casino won this week. I only got two of these games
I
correct.
got 3?
Casino got three. So Casino, our only difference was Broncos Bills. I picked the Broncos in an upset.
I
Casino
should have
picked the
picked the
Bills.
Rams.
And then we both got the Eagles and Ravens pick right, but we both picked the Chargers, we both picked the Bucks, and we both picked the Vikings. So rough week for picks. But Casino in the playoffs is winning 3-2. After, as I remind him, I did win the regular season this year. So before we get into our power rankings and end this show, Casino, we still have things to talk about in the NFL that is not these games, and that is your team. Basically, I don't know if it's been confirmed yet, but it's confirmed in quotes that Mike Vrabel
Oh,
has
no,
been.
it's confirmed. He's already done his press conference and everything.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Oh yeah, no,
So
I'll send you the press conference. It's outstanding. I am
then it
all
is
in.
confirmed. Mike Vrabel to your
Oh
Patriots.
yeah, I'm all in. I'm all in for Vrabel. And watching his 40-minute press conference was just outstanding. Well, totally, probably like 30 for him. It was just outstanding, outstanding. Two things I've learned from watching that press conference is Robert Kraft is old and he can barely move, and he's stuttering over his words. So that's
This
sad.
is news to me. This is
And then
shocking.
that's sad. But two was Mike Vrabel. He's the right guy for this organization. He's the right guy. He was getting asked some hard questions. I will send you the link. My brother sent it to me, and it's really good. It's really good. I'm very happy. He was one of the two guys that I wanted. Ben Johnson being young and offensive minded. That's what we need. That's what I wanted. Or Vrabel, who can bring back culture and not even Belichick's, but his own culture, which is everybody respects everybody. He talks about this. And you we want everybody to get to know each other. We want to know, he said, like, I want them to know about their families, about their friends. So, and it's a great point what he brings up is because if you get angry with your teammate on the field, you've already kind of got a relationship with them that it's not going to sting as much to be like, hey, you need to do this. You need to focus here. Because if you don't have a relationship with that person and you call them out on the field or in the locker room about something and you don't have that relationship, that's not going to be good for the team. But if you got to know them a little bit, you've gone out, you've spent time with them, you got to know them on a personal level, it softens the blow a little bit. I mean, you are the person I argue with the most in my entire life, but I know you. We've spent a lot of time together. We've known each other since high school. That I can let that all those arguments kind of like blow over a bit because a bit, not always. Just because I have a relationship with you and I like his stance on everything that he said, and it just seems like a great fit for this organization and how we can move forward as an organization. And I say we because I'm embedded. Patriot Nation, let's go. So
Yeah.
I'm very excited. I'm very excited, and he wants this job. He wants to come back to New England. Like I said, last year he got inducted into the New England Patriot Hall of Fame, and he was talking about how the Kraft family, everybody, really made his family feel not only welcome, but that it was so well deserved. Not just like, oh, he played well for us, but um, that it's a piece of his life is there, and it was an easy call for him. So I'm really excited. I think this is a great fit, and he knows what we need because I sent this to them the group chat after we talked about that whole interview. Was it sounds like he's going to get us like 15 wide receivers and 100 linemen, offensive linemen, because he understands where we are lacking
Yeah.
and what we need to do to be successful to help out Drake May. And it sounds like he's gonna go after with that because he talked about the cap a little bit. People asked him questions and, how he maneuvered it well, but it sounds like he is gonna go after some big receivers, some big offensive, tackles, and going through the draft, that it sounds like we're gonna either get Banks or we're gonna get, you know, Hunter, if he's still available, like he's going to go offensive heavy because the defense is pretty good still. So I'm really excited for this. Good pick, great pick. Now all the other availabilities, we got to talk about one more just opened. So Mike McCarthy is out as a Dallas coach. Um, that's great. I think he should just retire because I who's going to pick his ass up? I
The
wouldn't.
Bears. He's gonna be the Bears' next head
You
coach.
really
I'm
think he's going to
calling
go
it
to the
now.
Bears?
Yes, I'm calling it now. And that's not even my hot take. That's not even my
That
hot
would be,
take.
oh my goodness. My coworker will cry. I'm actually gonna send that to him right now, and I just want a live reaction.
I would
Why do you
put
think the
money
Bears? I wanna know.
I would put money on it. I think of all the job openings, I don't think he goes to the Jets. He doesn't have that feeling of the Jets. He feels like a Midwestern guy that wants to go to a place where he can put his mark on an offense, on a rookie quarterback. He wants to go to a place where there's offensive weapons. You look at all the job availabilities. That's not the Jets. That's not what is it? That's not the Raiders. That's not all these
So,
job openings.
I mean,
It's
you
the
know how there was the
Bears.
talk about, the Bears trying to talk to him and
Yeah,
whatnot. Do you think that's really gonna happen now?
I think he gets hired within a week. I legitimately
Woo!
think he's going to be the Bears head coach by next Tuesday. I really
He goes,
think
"I keep seeing it. I really hope not, though. I'm sad."
I honestly, I think by Friday he is introduced as the Bears head coach. I think it could be as early as Friday. But do you think this was justified in him being let again, he was not fired. They just couldn't come to terms on a new contract and they mutually, quote unquote, mutually parted ways.
No,
So
he didn't wanna be there. J oh my gosh.
Jerry Jones is annoying.
Jerry Jones is annoying. I wouldn't want to work for him. And yeah, I think this was the best decision for him to leave.
Yeah, I agree. Now, Casino, my question, I think McCarthy goes to the Bears. The big question now is who is the Cowboys' next head coach? And this is where I text you, I had a hot take that I actually think
Ben
could happen.
Johnson.
This is my hot take that I have not heard anyone say.
Ben
So if
Johnson.
somebody No,
I'm
my
saying it
hot
first, Ben Johnson.
no, my hot take that I have not
Rex
heard.
Ryan.
You ready for this? What if they hire John Gruden? What if John Gruden is the next Cowboys head coach? Hear me out. Hear me out. He We look at the Mike McCarthy signing. The Mike McCarthy was signed because he was an offensive coach who had won a Super Bowl. Of all the available head coaching options out there, who has an offensive mind and has won a Super Bowl before? That's a very short list. And again, when he got rid of Jason Garrett, there was the option to hand the keys of the franchise over to why am I blanking on his name? The offensive court, Kellen Moore. There was the option to hand the keys to the franchise over for a head coach to a young, unproven offensive coordinator. That sounds an awful lot like Ben Johnson. So I don't think the way Jerry Jones thinks is let's give the head coaching status to an unproven guy who is making his head coaching debut at this position. I think his mindset is I need to get a guy in here who is a proven winner who can help Dak Prescott and this offense with CD Lamb get to the Super Bowl. He looks at the defense and says, we already have it figured out. I already got Micah Parsons. We're already a top 10 defense when everybody's healthy. He looks at it as I need to make this work with Dak Prescott. That's why he hired Mike McCarthy. Nobody saw Mike McCarthy. That was a totally out of left field hire, a guy who had been away from football for a year or two, right?
So this is just in. So my coworker talked about the Bears. Apparently, and I'm looking it up, and it holds water. Apparently, they have asked the Bears have asked to interview Notre Dame's head coach Marcus Freeman.
Ooh, well that would be interesting.
There is a request from the Bears to talk to him.
Well, yeah, but also there needs to be, because of the Rooney rule, you have to interview, what is it, like minority coaches. So again, they can't just immediately hire Mike McCarthy because that's not allowed by the league. So I'm still saying they might, I mean, if they hired the Notre Dame head coach, I think that would be a great hire. We've seen what
I
he's done
would think
with
so
Notre Dame.
too. What he's done with Notre Dame in 3 years, three
Yeah.
years plus a game.
But all I'm saying is them interviewing him does not take McCarthy out of it. I still
No,
think McCarthy gets that job. And my hot take is that I've heard everything about Ben Johnson. I've heard the case for Deion Sanders. I legitimately think that John Gruden is the next coach of the Dallas Cowboys. You're hearing it here. That's my hot take.
all right,
John Gruden,
let's get
next coach of the
into
Cowboys.
the power rankings because we got to
I
get
don't
on
even
out of here.
I don't even think we're gonna have time, Casino. Let's The last news I wanted is since our last episode, the national championship has been has been
Set.
set. Thank you. It's going to be the number 6 Ohio State Buckeyes versus the number 3 Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Let's
Uh,
go Notre Dame.
yeah, I know you're a big Notre Dame guy.
Well, not even that. I'm just don't like Ohio State because I mean Brady went to Michigan, so I'm a Michigan guy by
Default.
association. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I'm not even a Michigan guy. I just that makes me just want to hate Ohio State. I'd much rather hate a team than like a team. So I hate Ohio State. That
Yeah.
and so go Notre Dame. Plus, I want them to win for my grandpa. That would be great, and I think they're gonna. I'm picking Notre Dame. You hear it now.
Oh, predict the score. Predict the score, Casino.
27-23.
Oh, you think it's going to be a close game?
I do. Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
still Ohio State.
yeah, the last time these two played, Ohio State won 17-14. So there is a real chance of that score happening. But yeah, I just think again, this has been a tale of two seasons for Ohio State. There was everything that happened before that Michigan game and everything that happened after that Michigan game. I feel like before the Michigan game, everybody was like, Ohio State's a real contender. And then they lost to Michigan. It was like, they're not even going to make it to the playoffs. They're going to lose in the championship game, and then they're going to lose in the first round, and then they're going to lose in the second round. And now all of a sudden they've been completely dominant since that Michigan game. And I really feel like they're now everybody's pick to beat Notre Dame in the national championship game. And I don't think people think it's even going to be close. I
which is
really think,
insane. Which is insane to me.
yeah, I
Which
don't
Notre Dame
know.
was able to put up that many points against one of the best defenses in the league, or in college football, while half the team had the flu. Like
I know.
like the fact that they could still do that against that defense team. I'm sorry, Ohio State, dude. Look out. I really think that people are underestimating how good Notre Dame is. I mean,
Uh,
there's early on in this season where we said, "Oh, Notre Dame, they stumbled like in the first 3 games. They just didn't look great." And then from there, they've been outstanding. Again, they have won 7 out of 7 ranked teams this year, and everybody was early on. We're like, "Oh, it's Army. Oh, it's Navy, Louisville." Teams like that. Well, they beat Texas A&M, they beat Georgia, they beat Penn State. Like those aren't easy teams to do. So like the fact that people are pushing that aside is blowing my mind.
yeah. Well, and also,
And I'll tell you right now, I'll take Marcus Freeman over Ryan Day any day.
oh yeah, also that
When it
was the
comes
big
to
thing.
coaching schemes.
Yeah, that was the big thing after that game, which was, well, after the Michigan game was like, how fast can we get Ryan Day out of here? And now all of a sudden, people are talking about him
He's
as
still
if
gone.
he's the best. You think if they lose the national championship, he's still gone?
Yes, because
No way.
it means more to that fan base and that school to beat Michigan than it does to win a national championship. You ask any Ohio State fan, what would you rather? Beat Michigan or win Ohio or win the national title? I guarantee you the majority will say beat Michigan.
Yeah, you might be right. You
I
might
think
be
I am
right.
right.
Yeah, I think you might be too. Also, the only team in the nation that lost to both of these teams was Indiana. So Indiana, their two losses are against Ohio State, Notre Dame. So I think they should make this a triple threat and throw Indiana in their casino. I mean, they the only two teams they've lost to have been to these two teams,
It'd
but
be like Omega Ball, but for football, which by the way,
yeah.
Omega Ball, I've been watching ESPN News late night. So it's like the Ocho. It is 3 teams. It's 3 teams, 3v3. Well, 1v1v1, whatever it is. Yeah, I guess like that. Yeah, 1v1v1 soccer. They just play in a
Oh,
big
I've
circle.
seen that.
There's
Yeah,
like a
it's
big
weird.
circle, and there's 3 soccer nets, and there's 3 teams, and it's fun as hell to watch. It's called Omega Ball. So let's do Omega Ball for football and throw in Indiana.
Yeah, yeah. But also, according to ESPN right now, Ohio State a 75% chance to win this game. So again, it's funny how they went from the most doubted team in the nation to now being a basically 3-1 odds to beat Notre Dame in this game for the national championship. So, yeah. Anything else to add on this game before we get out of here, Casino?
Nope, I need a stretch.
Yeah, this has been the Only Sports Podcast. We might do power rankings tomorrow, might just save it for Thursday's show. We just didn't have enough time for today. But yeah, I'm Will, that's Casino over there. This has been the Only Sports Podcast. Adios.